Alaska Airlines presents the Seattle Mariners Jackie Robinson Day Roundtable. Here's your host, Dave Sims.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Sims, Mariners broadcaster, and delighted to have you with us here for a Jackie Robinson Day Roundtable. As you can tell, I'm a big Jackie Robinson fan. I've been all my life, one of the most consequential Americans and athletes of the 20th century. Before we begin, we absolutely, positively have to give a warm and gracious and loving salute to first responders, doctors, delivery people who've been keeping life relatively normal for those of us who are pretty healthy right now as we battle this coronavirus pandemic. And hopefully we're going to get baseball back sometime this year. Look forward to it. We've got some wonderful panelists for you here today. Let's start. Down in Alabama, we've got Mariners second baseman Shed Long joining us. We've got Bob Kendrick from the Negro Leagues Museum and Hall of Fame in Kansas City. We've got Mallex Smith, Mariners center fielder. He's down in Florida. Also in Florida, infielder, second baseman Dee Gordon, former Mariners second baseman and big star in MLB Network, our guy, Harold Reynolds. Good to have you guys with us. This is going to be a lot of fun here. Shed, let me start with you. What's it been like without baseball? How have you been surviving?
It's weird, man. Being in the house right now. You're not used to being in the house right now at all. I'm used to traveling around constant. So just having to sit down is real weird. It's challenging, but at the same time, it gives it a little time to just self-reflect and just, learn more about yourself and just time to just really relax and be with the family, But it's definitely a tough time, but I mean, it's something that has to happen just for the safety of everyone.
Yeah. Harold, what about you?
Well, obviously, I live in New Jersey, and we've been in the epicenter, right next to New York, New Jersey. So I think, we've had a different take than really most of the rest of the country on the COVID-19 and the seriousness of it. It's been interesting watching this. We were all in spring training in Arizona when got sent home and the season ended and everything started to happen. And it seems like this whole virus caught steam and the whole country, depending on where you're at, was starting to get shut down slowly but surely. New York, New Jersey, we got shut down early. And we've seen a huge impact hit with the virus. People are taking it real serious. Left the house the other day. If you leave the house now, you have to wear a mask and gloves. We're still in that battle. So it hasn't really lightened up much. It's starting to get a little bit better, but we still have a long way to go. A lot of things we're battling. But all said and done, as bad as that may sound, it's still been pretty nice to be home this time of year and spend time with the family that I usually don't get to do. So it's been pretty special and just trying to take advantage of the opportunity. I'm at home right now and we're healthy and safe. So that's the main thing.
Hey, here. Dee, what about you down in Florida?
Hey, man, just getting to enjoy my baby, my new wife. Sucks without baseball. I love it, but I'm taking it as in now I get to know what I have to do after baseball over, without panic, without miss it that much. I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I miss it, I love my family time I'm getting. So, that's the way I'm seeing it. I've seen it as no one plays forever. And I think it's trying to get me in the right direction for life after baseball.
Okay. Mallex said you're a little bit farther north in Florida. And then Dee, what's going on with you?
Really, I'm going to piggyback off what Dee said, I'm just kind of taking this as a highlight of what it'll be like when you retire. So, like, just really trying to figure out things that I like and, taking time with the family and everything, as well as appreciating the time off of the body. You know what I'm saying? Like, these games are, we play 162 games plus. So, I can personally appreciate having this time to just kind of relax and just really like let the body take a real recovery, instead of that quick 3-month break that we normally have to get.
Yeah. Bob Kendrick, you're in Kansas City and like me, a lifelong baseball fan. You run the Negro Leagues Museum and Hall of Fame, and you're used to having a lot of tourists coming through there now. Yeah. Man, you've made a big change right now with this pandemic going on.
Yeah, no, and this was such a important year for the museum. And as Harold well knows, we were off to a flying start. This is the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, formed right here in Kansas City in 1920. And so February 13th was the actual 100th anniversary of the leagues formed into existence by Rube Foster. And so on February 13th of this year, we had the commissioner of Major League Baseball here, Xavier James, who's the chief operating officer over at Major League Baseball Players Association, a host of other distinguished guests. And Dave, we went right back into the Paseo YMCA, where Rube Foster signed the leagues into existence. 100 years from that historic date. And of course, Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball's Player Association announced a joint $1 million contribution to the museum in support of our centennial celebration, which was going to be a year-long celebration. So we're off and running, man. We're off to a flying start. And a month later, Corona done knocked us down. And so we're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to, remain optimistic. Harold and I spent a lot of time together. Matter of fact, we were together last in February at Major League Baseball's offices, where we did a piece for employees there at Major League Baseball. And, we're just so excited about what the promise of this year held for the museum, because as you guys can well imagine, this 100th anniversary was perhaps the largest platform the museum has ever had. And there was a lot riding on this in terms of trying to generate the support, Dave, that you want to try to help the museum be able to operate in perpetuity. And so there were a lot of things planned. And, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in June, of course, wearing those steelhead uniforms. The Royals were going to be in town wearing those Monarch uniforms. And then everybody on June 27th was going to have our centennial patch. As a matter of fact, that's the patch on the cap there. All the players were going to have that patch on the uniform. Man. And, this was going to be amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Bob, I think what you need to do is something Satchel Paige would do. It ain't 100 years, Satchel 98. So just move it back, and we'll do this again in 2 years.
So, we are already making plans to carry this over to 2021. You get these anniversaries, man. You got to milk these anniversaries for everything you can get out of them.
No doubt about it.
But, Dave, and it's so interesting, and it was something that I think all three guys said the same thing. We will learn something from this situation. And more times than not, it is about perspective. And it's about appreciation of the simple things that we sometimes take for granted. And it's like, I can't wait to go back to a restaurant and sit down and have a meal in a restaurant.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and so I think we will all gain something from this. Right. And certainly here at the museum, we're trying to think about how we can salvage as much of this year as we possibly can. And of course, if fate has it, Harold, our friend Buck O'Neil is up for induction into the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
Please get him in, please.
And so,
Let's go.
Baseball winter meetings hit, if Buck gets into the Hall of Fame, well, 2021, we get the stage of Buck O'Neil Hall of Fame celebration. So we'll always find a reason to celebrate.
Man,
this was a big stage for us.
Today we want to celebrate Mr. Robinson. And, we represent multiple generations of African-American men. And Bob, quickly, if you could discuss or give us an idea of what it was like when you first heard about Jack Roosevelt Robinson and his impact.
Well, it was interesting because as a kid growing up in Georgia, my parents, you got to understand, Jackie Robinson's breaking of the color barrier for Black folks was equivalent to the first man landing on the moon. I mean, it was complete euphoria. I mean, people were just bonkers over the fact that this man was about to play in Major League Baseball. And I think as African-American baseball fans, it was something that we had been waiting on for quite some time. And now it has finally happened. And so that resonated with my family. And then Dave, as a fast forward and I get involved with this museum, I'll be honest, I was not unlike most baseball fans who had no idea that Jackie Robinson's baseball roots had begun in the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
It all started
Right coming out of the Army, yeah.
Yeah, it all started right here in Kansas City. And that's something that we're extremely proud of, that Kansas City essentially gave America arguably its greatest hero in Jackie Robinson and the Negro League.
And you know what's great about, guys, one of the many things that's great about Mr. Robinson, and I have a hard time even at this stage calling him Jackie. I wish I had known him personally, and I know a lot of guys that did know him, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that Jackie Robinson made my success possible. Without him, I would never been able to do what I did. Question I want to throw out to you guys, baseball, you guys play baseball at a high level. You're all major leaguers. And the game's tough enough. So now you factor in all the stuff that Jackie Robinson went through in terms of, we don't want you here, the name calling, the spitting, the spiking. I mean, Richie Ashburn, I remember I had a conversation with him. He said, Ben Chapman, their manager, 1950. Yeah, 1950. He said, I want you to spike him, spit on him, cuss on him, do everything you can. And Richie said, Skip, you need to call this off because the more we do, he's sticking it to us. And I looked at some numbers, Jackie's numbers against the Phillies and I'm almost ashamed to say my hometown of Philadelphia. Jackie at Shad Park in Philly, 98 games. He had 317, 19 for 24 in base stealing, an OPS of 870. And, he responded. Harold, I mean, your thoughts on that? I mean, what Jackie Robinson did.
Well, all that, obviously, he had to be able to produce athletically as well as take everything else. But I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking about Jackie Robinson and what his legacy really means when I look at it from a different viewpoint. After Jackie came Newcomb and came Roy Campanella, and the next 9 out of the next 11 MVPs in the National League were African-American players that came after Jackie. So he'd seen what was coming down the pipeline. It's one thing when Dr. King says, I've been to the promised land and I've seen the mountaintop. That was a vision he had from God, that he was seeing a vision. But Jackie had seen already in the Negro Leagues competing against these guys what the talent was like that was going to be coming forth. So he knew that he could not fail because of what was coming after him. And he knew the major impact of what was coming after him was going to have. So to me, that's astounding. Dee, can you imagine if you knew what was coming after you, your little brother or whoever, and you saw their talent, you played against them every day, and you knew that if you failed, they'd never get that opportunity. It kind of changes your whole perspective as a player. Can you imagine having seen what he saw in the Negro Leagues, that type of talent, knowing that that's what's coming forward, and I got to knock this door down for them, and if I fail, no Satchel Paige, no Roy Campanella, no Hank Aaron, no Willie Mays, no all these guys are already in the Negro Leagues coming forward.
That's scary. That's scary, man. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm a fighter. I would have said something, spit, talked about spike, all that. I would have probably said something. So I know, just like we talked about God rode for us, it's the same thing Jackie kind of did for us on a black baseball scale, to myself. He had to rise up because personally, I know I couldn't have handled it. I need to play in the late 2000s, the early 2000s.
You're playing into your time, man. I get you.
Hey, I have an older grandfather who played, like rec ball and like played around, and he dealt with it, hearing his story. So to hear it of Jackie on a national level where you feel like, we feel like as pro athletes, these fans say nothing crazy to us. You know what I'm saying? He was getting it from the fans and his peers and the other coaches staff. They were bound. And I'm not sure if I could.
Mallex, what about you? What did you, when you think about Jackie Robinson, and I don't know how much you know about the story. I know you know some, but when you think about that and then you try to put yourself in his shoes, What comes to mind?
Thinking about that just makes me more appreciate where we're at now in life, because, it'd be times where, I have a bad game and then I think to myself, like, nobody cussed at you, spit on you, threw a ball at your head. You rode on the same bus as the whole team. You're staying at the same hotel. You didn't have to have a secret entrance and none of that stuff. So, like, did you really have a bad day? Because you're still in the major leagues. So, and it just makes me gain a greater appreciation for everything that he went through. And then the guys following after him, because it wasn't like he was the only one that got it.
Right.
So for me personally, it just makes me feel like let me suck it up and figure out how to maximize this opportunity, because I've had too many people in front of me sacrifice dignity, humility for me to have this moment of privilege right now.
Do you still feel the impact that Jackie Robinson, as a young African American player in the game right now, year 2020?
For sure. I mean, I think it's definitely impact still, because if you look at it, it's still not a lot of African Americans in this game. The percentage is so low. So, just what he done for us, it really just makes you appreciate it. For me, I really appreciate it just because I'm in the same boat like D. Like, I know I have an attitude problem. I know I'll get mad quick. So, you say something to me, I want to fight you about it. I'm not going to just let you disrespect me and just walk over me. Like, no, it don't work like that. That's not how I was raised. So for somebody to do that, you got to have the most dignity, the most character, humility. Like, it's unbelievable.
It's great when you go back and you read about Jackie Robinson. Bob, you could probably address this. There was one point where Branch Rickey said basically, hey, the handcuffs are off, man. Get out there, be you. Because here's a guy that was a 4-star letterman at UCLA, an Army officer during World War II, 6'1", 185, just the dynamic presence, athlete, tough guy. To think about the toughness and the perseverance, the strength of character with all of those attributes we're talking about, and for him to suck it up for 3 years before he cut loose is just unbelievable.
No, it really is. And sometimes when a lot of young kids hear the abuse, Dave, that Jackie took, they'll say stuff like, well, he must have been soft, some kind of Uncle Tom. No, not Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was as fiery and feisty an individual as you will ever meet. In the words of the late, great Buck O'Neill, as he would talk about Jackie, who had huge hands. You gotta look at Jackie's hands. His hands were huge. And as Buck would say, Jackie could do and would do. He'd knock you on your run. But he humbled himself for the greater good.
For those first couple of years. And he turned it loose after a certain point. He turned it loose.
And then Ricky turned him loose.
Right.
And so this was totally out of character for Robinson to take this kind of abuse.
And I know some cats that knew him, and Harold, you can appreciate this. Hey, man, 4-foot putt, put it in the cup. No, pick him up, put it in the cup. He was one of those kind of guys. Hey, Harold, Jackie, of course, brought the Negro League style of play, a little bit more small ball with more of a premium on the run game. Is that style coming back to the big leagues?
We're still a little ways from that. I think with the changing of the guard a little bit, we're seeing, I think this whole virus, believe it or not, is changing not only our country, the world, how everybody's seeing things. We all talked earlier about perspective. I think the game is going to change as well. You're looking at, if we come back this year, probably an 80-game season. Strikeouts ain't going to get it done in 80 games.
Put in play, baby.
And so you're going to have to put the ball in play. You got to catch the ball. It's going to be more playoff type of baseball. So when we get to the playoffs in the postseason, you see a different brand than you do over 162 games. So now with the things they're discussing, possibly playing in Arizona and Florida and different divisions and things like that, it comes down to catching the ball, putting the ball in play, and be able to make those plays. And that's why I think Dee Gordon or Shed or Mallex will have more of an impact in this short season than they will over 162 games. So in that sense, I can see that changing.
Absolutely, Harold. To that point, you look at Dee, 3-time Major League stolen base champion. Mallex won the stolen base championship in the Major Leagues last year. Shed in 2016, he stole 21 bags. 2018, 19 bags. You sure hope that's going to be a big part of what we see. And like you said, there's no more, well, we can slough off a game here, throw away a game. Hey, man, every game is like super premium Goldfinger, man.
Yeah,
the game has changed so much, Bob. I'm going to throw it to you on this one. But, I won a stolen base title in 1987 with 60 stolen bases. Ricky Henderson called me and said, 60 stolen bases? You ought to be ashamed. He was averaging 100 and some a year. That was in 87. So I don't even want to tell you guys what I'm thinking with your titles, with the numbers you're throwing out there. I'm just saying. So Bob Kendrick, I lead it to you this way.
All right.
Tell these youngsters about how the style of brand of baseball came about that Rube Foster brought into the Negro Leagues that Jackie Robinson took to the big leagues.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Harold. Jackie took that style that was signature Negro Leagues baseball. The game was played differently. It was fast and it was aggressive and it was daring and it had a bravado to it, or as you guys say, some swag. And swag was acceptable because if you didn't have it, you couldn't play in Negro League. And so, yeah, and so guys were going to take that walk and they were going to steal second and steal third. And if you weren't too smart, they were stealing home. And so it held fans' attention as well. And again, and Harold was right. I know the game changes. I'm a little old school. That strikeout home run thing does not work for me. It's boring. And that's not to minimize what the home run does. The home run is still special, but man, to be able to manufacture a run. Rube Foster's teams could score a run and the ball never left the infield. Never left the infield. So you got guys who got wheels like you guys have, man, who could very easily, a walk for you all is like a double. If they turn you loose, if they turn you loose. And then they move you over. They move you over, then you score,
Gotta turn you loose.
That's Mike's got a green light, right?
Race horses, man, turn them loose.
Absolutely.
Ricky need to give your manager a call. I'm just saying.
Hey, Harold, what did Ricky say? Harold, Ricky said what? He said Ricky had 60 at the break, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He said Ricky had 60 All-Star break. Man, you gotta be kidding me.
Cool Papa Bell once stole 175 bases in a less than 200 game season. Now, this was seasons being backed up against one another, but still 175 bases in a less than 200 game season.
Hey, man.
But, guys, it was commonplace. I mean, we got a thing on MLB Network now, the 80s Cardinals, the brand of baseball they played is what we're talking about. But it was common where Vince Coleman was stealing 140 bases in the minor leagues and Donnell Nixon 140 bases, and I stole 9 bases in the minor leagues one season. I mean, there was guys that ran like crazy, and hopefully we'll get back to that. I do think today's athlete, with the combination of power and speed, can be the best generational athlete that we've seen in baseball. I just want to let you guys utilize all your talents.
Now, that's a strong case.
So
That's a strong case. And the other thing, too, that I know Shed, and maybe actually for more Harold and Bob, but when you talk about the run game, a lot of times teams don't do a very good job defending it. So, take advantage of it, right?
Oh, first and third defense it's atrocious watching it, in today's game because they don't have to work on it. And there are some guys that can defend it. If D was at second base, he would defend it because he's got the arm strength to do it. But a lot of people ignore that. And that, to me, is a stolen bag. It's a base. Changes how defense is going to have to play. It's just viewed differently. That's all. The game's just looked at totally different. But I would like to ask you guys are the current players. What do you think about the game that you're playing today with the shifts and not as much pressure on the defense from a running standpoint? With you, Go ahead.
I'm gonna let Mallex go. I'm gonna go last.
Why I gotta go first?
Go ahead, Mallex.
Okay. Keep this pretty short and quick. I feel like there needs to be more people running. Honestly, I think it starts a little bit deeper in the minor leagues. You need to let the guys fail in the minor league and really figure out what they can and cannot do, so that when they get up to the major leagues, they have a better idea of themselves, and then actually allow them to choose their spots versus necessarily trying to control the run game. And I just feel like the thought process on the run game is bad right now because they don't necessarily feel the value in it, but they don't feel the value in it because everybody can't do it. So you just got to entrust, just like you put people at different positions, that if that is a part of their game, that you got to allow them to do that game. Nobody tells you when to catch, throw. Those are all things that you do on your own. So why, when it comes down to stealing bases, would you then say, we want to control that part of the game? That's just my thought process on it, you know.
Yeah, one of the
quick,
worst things for a base runner is having somebody pick your pitches. You have to have a green light to be aggressive. And the other part, I think, and I'll throw it to D after this, missing a lot is I know when I played, it was if I had somebody on in front of me with the threat of the run, I'm going to get a good pitch to hit. And I think they've devalued that. You don't have to necessarily run. But if Dee Gordon is on base, that hitter is going to get some fastballs to hit. It's just naturally going to happen. So I think they haven't looked at the full completeness of what a running game can do. But Dee, go ahead. I'm done talking. You take over.
So how I feel, I'm going to get on both the running game part of it, but the people not running no more. I just think it's the way of Major League Baseball getting more guys into the league who are those middle of the road guys. You know, that's why we started the launch angle, and that's why we started talking about more trying to get the 800 OPSs, because it was either the athletes or the really extremely good baseball players, and the middle of the road guy wasn't even get to the league. You know what I'm saying? So I think, you know, that's helped some guys get here, but it's also made the game very, it has liquefied the game, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
It isn't as, they're calling ballers people who shouldn't be ballers. You know what I'm saying? Just they're yes as this. You know what I'm saying? And if it was any year without being in the last 5 years, they wouldn't be good players on anybody's team.
We've diluted the product.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get back to Mr. Robinson for a little bit too, because I think what we've been talking about here, you know, about the run game is, you know, emblematic of what he was all about. Like you said, he stole 197 bases, 19 times he stole the plate, which is pretty remarkable, and it's not even at the top of the list. But he also did it in the World Series. When you think about Jackie Robinson, think about his impact in the game. Here we are, 2020. He broke in 1947. Why is the percentage? Why are the numbers of African Americans in the game? Why and how has it plummeted so much since Harold and Bob? Since what? Let's say 1970, 1975. Harold,
is that for me? Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to let the current guys talk, and then I'll finish up because I got some thoughts, but I want to hear what they think.
Okay, that's cool.
We'll go to Shed. Shed, we haven't heard from you for a while. Go ahead, and then I'll finish up off it.
I think for me, especially where I'm from here in Alabama, for the Black community in baseball, one thing about baseball is, you know, now travel ball and the AAU ball is way bigger than high school ball or park ball. You know, the park leagues are not even like where I'm from here in Anniston. We don't even have a park and recreation league, and it's basically a predominantly Black community. We don't even have a park and recreation league, and we got brand new baseball fields, don't even get used. You know, so it's like in the Black community for baseball is expensive. And to do that AAU and to do travel ball, you know, your parents got to have a little money. You got to be able to travel places, stay in hotels for the weekend, every weekend in the summer. And in the Black community, it ain't no money, so it ain't no way for us to do that. It's easy to go on the field and he'll go a football, go throw this and go get faster and go watch it on TV, or he'll go a basketball and he'll go a hoop. It's easy to do that. But with baseball, I got to have a glove. I got to have a bat. I got to have some balls. I got to have somebody else to train with me. It's so much that go into it that just it's not an advantage for the black community. The black community is at such a disadvantage with it that it's just, I feel like it's so hard. It's going to be so hard to get baseball in the community.
What do you
Right.
think, G?
I think like Shed's definitely right. And I also think it comes back to what we just said. Like most of us are athletes. Most of us have that pizzazz Mr. Kendrick talk about. When I play baseball, I play like I'm in the Negro League. Like that's you know what I'm saying? When I'm at my best, I feel like I'm just out here having fun, playing. And yes, it's a game. It's serious to you, but it's a game to me. And I think that's what most of us are like. You know what I'm saying? Most of us are here to have a good time and talk trash that we played at home, just like Mr. Robinson would have done, just like everybody in the Negro Leagues would have done as well. And honestly, that's kind of frowned upon here. You know what I'm saying? We really not allowed to express ourselves as much as we and MLB is telling us to, but it's still a little bit frowned upon.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Mallex, I know you said you decided as a DB you wanted to get out of that. I mean, at 180 pounds, 170 pounds, and being a DB and taking all that punishment wasn't worth it as opposed to playing baseball, right?
Oh, definitely. But even then, that decision got made up with. It was like a family decision. I just feel like the numbers in baseball go down because. So the thought process that baseball is inexpensive, and the reason I say it like that is because I've been over to the Dominican, and just like anybody else who's been over there, I would imagine that you've seen a few pickup baseball games if you done drove around through the city. I had a few of my teammates take me around to their neighborhood. And I remember I saw 3 9-on-9 pickup games in the midst of leaving the complex to go into the facility. But it's also a third world country. So they're finding every little way to go out and entertain themselves. Whereas, in America, everything's at our disposal. So if we don't have the best or at least something that we figure is decent, something to play with, we're not going to do it. But it's easy to go get a basketball. It's easy to go get a football. And we can run all types of games. Now, on the contrary, people feel like you got to need a bat, ball, gloves to go play. When I saw over there, I saw 2 kids playing, it was flicking bottle caps at one another, swinging sticks.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
girl, bottle cap. I did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about taking hacks,
great,
flicking
the
it
great-
hard, taking hacks.
The
So,
great
like,
Henry Aaron grew up and he was hitting cross-handed at that time using a broomstick and hitting a bottle cap with a broomstick. Now I can tell you now, fellas, if you can hit a bottle cap with a broomstick, you probably gonna be able to hit that baseball.
right.
I like your chances. Harold,
Well,
what do you think?
I think we're all talking the same language in that I 100% agree we got an economic problem in baseball, and I understand what Mallex is saying too with the creativeness. But I think the other big part that plays with it in our country, education is important, and everybody talks about going to college. And what I've seen, I have 2 older brothers who played pro baseball, college football, all that. And in our family, I'm the youngest of 8 kids. And when it became decisions for us to see how we were going to get into college, it was about scholarships. We were not going to be able to afford to go. And that plays and rings true today as it did back when I was graduating high school in 79. You have to make that decision. So when baseball at the college level in Division I offers 11.7 scholarships and says we're going to carry a 25-man roster, we'll split that in half. And when you have kids that are being first-round draft picks now, and their option is, well, you can go to UCLA if you want to, but you got to pay $30,000 a year to go to UCLA, even though you're number 1 draft pick. It makes it pretty easy to say, I'm either going to turn pro baseball or I'm going to go play the other sports. when football has 85 scholarships,
Full
and you're sitting
scholarships.
around full scholarships and you're discussing how you're going to get into school, I think you start leaning towards that full scholarship. So I think that plays in it as well.
Right.
So all those things are affecting the community on how kids are getting into play baseball or interested in baseball.
Well, Bob, I can tell you this. This 40-man roster that the Mariners currently have is 10 African Americans, which is probably the most. Howard was probably back to the mid 80s when you had a lot of guys. Phil Bradley, yourself, Coles Jr. eventually came up. But that 10 has got to be the biggest number going into this season or next season, Bob Kendrick.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons I was so excited, man, to have you guys come out to Kansas City. And, Dave, we had already talked about getting the guys out here. I know Dee and Mallex have been here before, and, they're regulars here. And so, but it was going to be great because, yeah, that's special. That is so special. And, when we talk about it, and again, I think everybody's mindset focuses on the economics of this sport. But see, during that era of segregation, when the Negro Leagues were so prevalent, you also have to understand that a kid never had to worry about how he's going to play baseball. All the Black businesses supported baseball. All the Black churches supported baseball. So a kid had every outlet to play. And of course, football and basketball at that time really were more or less collegiate sports, and nobody was thinking about it. Yeah, you think about playing professional, you were going to play baseball. And so baseball was drawing the absolute best athlete. And because of segregation, Jackie Robinson, when he was here in Kansas City, stayed in the same neighborhood I did. Now, in Jackie's case, he stayed at the Street Hotel. But Buck O'Neill, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell, they stayed in the same neighborhood I stayed in. They went to the same barbershop I went in. And so it was an aspirational thing. I saw you every day, and I wanted to be like you, and not just these young men as athletes, but I wanted to mimic and model them as people because I'm watching them every day interact in this community.
And you know what's sad, Bob, that a lot of people aren't even aware that type of world existed, whether they be Black or white. I will say, in defense of Major League Baseball, and we're looking hopefully to start to see some numbers bear some fruit. MLB launched an urban youth academy, cities like in Brooklyn, Kansas City, D.C., Philly, Houston, Puerto Rico. You got the RBI League reviving baseball in the inner cities. You got Baseball Beyond Borders. And question, Harold, I can ask you this. How do the Mariners, how do other teams, individual teams, how do they keep that ball rolling?
Well, Tony Regan's group at MLB does a great job. The way to keep the ball rolling, you got to continue to reach out. You got to continue to make it affordable and opportunities for those kids to play and know that baseball is an option. I just think that it's a different world than even 10 years ago. How our economy changes, how our interests change, and you got to continue to infuse that and keep kids interested. I would love to see the Seattle Mariners using all these young men and reaching out in the inner city and Garfield High School and go to Franklin High and all those schools in the CD down in the Central District down there and being able to really put on those clinics. I remember I used to do that a lot. And I grew up in the Mariner organization, and I had an instruction league team of the 22 players. We had 16 that were Black. And then we were dispersed all over the league. But for the most part, I got to the big leagues with probably what we're seeing now with the current 2020 Mariners or last season. So I think you got to have an impact of being able to go where these guys want to have some impact at.
Dee, if you had to go on a recruiting trip in the CD and talking to some, like, each school's got its X amount of stud athletes, like, 3 sport guys. What kind of recruiting pitch would you put on a young kid about, hey, man, you need to come play some baseball?
I have to see what his interest is. I can't tell.
Saying that his interest is that. And what would you do to get him over the hump to make him to help him make that decision to come to baseball?
first of all, what I do is tell him he needs to play baseball. You know what I'm saying? Let him know the pros and definitely the cons. But be there for him. Be there. If I'm gonna start, if I'm gonna take, you know, any interest in his life as a baseball player that day, I'm gonna have to continue it through his whole career. You know, like a Juan Pierre has done for me, or Sean Figgins, you know.
Come on.
So you got to keep going with it. I think most of the time we do stuff and then just kind of X out on it. You got to finish it because you got to see this kid through. If you made him leave what he had set up, you got to see him through. You know what I'm saying? So I think I would personally make sure I see him through, make sure I check on him, and tell him that it's going to be tough. You're going to be, some things are going to be said to you that you may not like. You're going to have to curb your attitude and be a professional. The one thing I can say about this sport, speaking to my NBA friends and my NFL friends, we are probably the most professional people in any sport. We don't have curfews. We don't have people watching. We don't have roommates on the road when you get to the league. It's a reason. You know, I talk to my football friends. I talk like, yo, it's a reason. Y'all always in trouble.
Hey, don't forget too, your union may be the best union on the planet too.
And it's so many pros in it. I mean, there are definitely cons to everything. So I make sure I give him the pros. And if he loves it, do it.
All right, Ted, what about you? What would your recruiting pitch be to a young man? Hey, man, you got some serious potential. You can make a good dollar. You can have a good run here in baseball. I'd be curious to hear what you would tell a young man in that situation.
I mean, I'd be the same. I mean, I tell him like he needs to do it. You know, I mean, for me, baseball has gave me so many opportunities, so many chances to see different parts and different places that I didn't think I would see. You know, so I'm just like, you know, it's a way for you to make it out. And I mean, you're gonna get paid to do what you want to do and do what you love to do. I mean, what else do you want to do? You know, that's the biggest thing. So it's like you just have to stick with it. But it's like D said, it's like you got to stay by their side. You know, I mean, for me, I wouldn't be where I am right now if D wasn't always by my side. There's so much that he's given me, even in the mental part, not just on the field. You know,
Sure.
It's just you have to really stick by their side and let them know that they have somebody in their corner that actually cares about it. Because once they feel like no one cares, that's when they go away from it.
I got Mallex. Let me get your thoughts, and Bob, I'm going to come to you on one more thing. What would you do?
Well, you know, if we had a 3-sport athlete like that, I would definitely tell him he should play baseball. But right after saying that, I would say you're going to have to be your own individual. For the simple fact that, you know, we are treated as men and we are held to a level. We are supposed to be held to a level of professionalism. And, you know, I'll say that to him because we have so much free time. Not necessarily like in the sense of like our days are free, but when we are not at the field, we are by ourselves. So if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, like it doesn't matter. You are going to be held and considered a grown man. So you need to make sure you act like it and you move like it and you think for yourself because everybody don't have the same agenda as you. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody, you may be around hanging out with somebody who just happy to be here versus you're playing this to be in the major leagues and spend, you know, 10 years in the major leagues, 15 years in the major leagues. That's going to look different. Right. So you need to make sure that you make your own decision. Like you're able to think for yourself and don't get caught up in doing what anybody else does because you may not have the freedom or finances to be able to keep up with them. So like, well, as you move throughout, you know, your days and whatnot, move with some professionalism. And like
that is great advice. That really is.
When Mallex stood up into his preacher's stance, I said, look out, he getting ready to bring it now, boy. Look out.
Asking for the choir, a little bit of organ music and everything, right? Hey, Bob,
hey, can I chime in real quick before you go, Bob, on this?
You lived the life.
My thought is this, having been older than you guys and been approached with this quite a bit, the first thing I would say, let's look at your body type. You're not going to be a 5'8" point guard. It ain't happening. Yeah. You're not going to be the DB that's going to be guarding that defensive back. You're not going to be that guy guarding that running back. You know, so I think body type has a lot to do with it. because you all know in our community, everybody thinks they're going to be the next Michael Jordan. You're not.
Correct.
So let's look at what you got. So then I look at football and I go, the concussion thing is real. And we don't talk about it enough in baseball. You know, having kids myself, I sit here and go, am I really going to let my son play football when he gets in high school? That's a serious conversation every day in our household. You know, so those are things you have to seriously consider. And the last thing I would say is the opportunity baseball affords you. That if you're going to get drafted out of high school and you got a chance to sign and you got a possibility of going to a college, they will match that scholarship. All right. And now you're going to get a chance to go out and play baseball and get paid in the minor leagues until you get to the big leagues. And then if you get to the big leagues, the minimum salary is $500,000 a year.
Hello.
So I just have to point it out the way it is, that this is a great opportunity. And I know exactly what the guys are talking about too. There is a lot of cons. You're going to be up against a lot of battles regardless. But I do think that there is a positive spin that we're not telling the youngsters that baseball affords you. And I think we have to start sharing that message that it is an opportunity there that you may not get in other sports, and an opportunity to get out of your neighborhood and really see what you're about at an early age, at 18 years old. Anyway, that's my spiel.
No, that's good. That's a good wrap up. And the last thing I want to hit on before we wrap up the program, Bob Kendrick, I got to ask you, Ken Griffey Jr., instrumental in persuading Bud Selig to retire the number 42 all through baseball. The first couple of years it designated one player on each team, and then now everybody wears 42. Talking about the impact, discuss the impact that that's had on the game, and as we continue to celebrate the legacy of Mr. Jackie Robinson.
Well, you know, I tell people all the time, Dave, that we should never forget Jackie Robinson. And Junior's gesture way back when was one of the most brilliant things ever. And then to have Major League Baseball take it and embrace it to the point where every athlete now wears number 42 on April 15th is monumental, because Jackie Robinson's breaking of the color barrier not only changed things in this game, it changed things in our country. And that should never be lost. And so we should never forget Jackie Robinson. I think for us here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, it further evidences the fact that we should never forget the Negro Leagues, because this is the league that gave us Jackie Robinson. And quite frankly, guys, had it not been for the Negro Leagues, we don't get Jackie Robinson. Now, I think we all believe at some point in time, this game would have integrated, but who knows when? Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows how long it could have been? And so if Jackie doesn't have the Negro Leagues as a place to play, then Harold, we might have missed Willie Mays. Mm-hmm. We may have missed Henry Aaron.
Frank Robinson.
Yeah, Frank Robinson, Ernie Green, Roy Campanella. And so Jackie for us is the beginning, but he's also the end. He was the beginning of progress, and he was beginning of this opportunity for African Americans to play in what they were calling organized baseball, but it also spelled the end of the Negro Leagues.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of bittersweet, but in terms of the impact that it had in making this country better, you won't find a single solitary event that had any more impact than the day that Jackie Roosevelt Robinson walked out on that field, April 15, 1947, with the Brooklyn Dodgers.
You know, I look at, when I look back on my career, there's not many regrets at all. I played 80s, 90s. So those men that were playing in the 70s, those Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, those guys became instructors of mine that I got a chance to touch and be a part of. And then I played as far as up to Ken Griffey Jr. and played 4 seasons with him and so on. So I preface it with this. I'm not jealous of you guys about anything except for this. What is it like to wear the number 42? I never got to do that. So I got to ask you three that get to don that jersey on Jackie Robinson Day. What is that like?
Go ahead, Mallex. I go.
Hey, that's the one jersey of the year where you're like, I think I'm gonna keep that jersey.
Got it framed? I hope you got it framed.
You know it.
Yeah. How about you, D?
So for me, it's a little deeper. I know I got this Royals jacket on, Montreal Royals number 9.
Nice.
This minor league team with the Dodgers. But coming up with the Dodgers, I was number 9. And I was like, yo, like, this is the number he wore in the minors with the Dodgers. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's like weird. It's like a little weird, like nowhere near Jackie Robinson, nowhere near on his level. I told you I couldn't do nothing to do. But I'm number 9 with the Dodgers. First time ever wearing number 42, I hit my first walk-off hit.
There we go. There we go.
And when I got the league leading hits, stolen bases, and a batting title, I was the first person since him to do that in the big league.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that was
Good for you.
little things, the little nuances in it. I have to keep the 42 both every year, so ain't nobody get mine.
Awesome.
Shit, you weren't up last April, but I'm looking for. We're gonna get some video of you and do an interview with you the first time you get a chance to put on 42 on Jackie Robinson Day next. If we have one this year, or we'll do it next year.
Yeah, I haven't done it, but I did. So with the Reds, we had Daytona, which is Jackie Robinson Ballpark.
There we go. Okay.
And so my only 2 home run game in in pro baseball is the day that we wore number 9 jerseys for Jackie Robinson.
Nice.
So yes, it's still there. I still have a few memories with it, but I haven't wore 42 in the big leagues yet.
All right, you will. Hey guys, this has been beautiful. Just like last September we got together, this has been absolutely great. I want to thank Bob Kendrick, Dee Gordon, Mallex Smith, Harold Reynolds, Shed Long. And again, thanks to all the first responders, medical workers, and all the delivery people keeping things running here in this country. I'm Mariner broadcaster Dave Sims. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you down the road at T-Mobile Park.
Thank you for watching the Seattle Mariners Jackie Robinson Day Roundtable, presented by Alaska Airlines. Be sure to subscribe to the Mariners YouTube channel for more exclusive Mariners videos.